Story Species Story Medicine, Extra Strength. Ready to take your medicine with Gina Virginia Casella?
Species of medicine, open for the task. Extra strength is everything you'd ever ask. Many with the soil, many with the seed. Earth is a medicine for you and for me. Scrubbing out the tarnish, building up the trust. Honest little tales, rising from the rust. Truth is in the living, truth is in the skin. Open up the portal, let the healing in. Extra strength, extra soul. Medicine to make us whole. Feel the rhythm, feel the pace. Every single space. Are you ready for the cure? Keep it steady, keep it pure. Extra strength.
Hey, Dragon Dreamers, Gina Virginia Casella here, and thank you so much for joining me today on Story Species Story Medicine. Today I've got with me my new friend, Jason J Tavares, and I'm going to tell you all about him. And something that's really special is his dog, and it made me think about Missy Hill, one of our speakers from our recent conference Summer Days, because she travels with her cats. And the cats provide her with information. And when I first heard about Jason, I thought, yeah, that's same thing kind of going on here with his dog. And so I know lots of Dragon Dreamers out there like pets, and looking forward to diving into today's Story Species, Story Medicine with Jason. And you know what? We're a story species. And every time we share our stories, we share our medicine. So Jason, in 1974, Jason J. Tavares was born in Cranston, Rhode Island, and throughout his life, he has had many fortunate experiences to include military service, college, travel, and relationships, along with his own ability to write and film his visions, as well as receiving experiences from the unknown. His literature can be found on Amazon.com. And I also got a link there in the chat straight to Jason's YouTube channel as well. So you can find his films on YouTube and IMDb under the same name with middle initial. Jason wishes to become a Hollywood screenplay writer and well-known author, much like his lifetime heroes, Washington Irving, George Orwell, Rod Serling, and Sylvester Stallone. Jason likes to act, write, and direct. You can also find him singing songs in his videos, even fight monsters from hell. In some stories, Jason is the victim. In others, not so much. Jason aims to create an above-average plot. As every film he's made, you'll meet interesting people, and many have come back to appear in his sequels. Jason's hosted his own talk show, doing segments right from his table at home, and his kitchen table, and his guests, they have interesting stories to share. Some of them are a little bit on the disturbing side, and Jason weaves these together through his story medicine. Some of them are paranormal, yet it all gets presented in a comical way. So some of his stuff, there's swords and violence, but a lot of it is mixed in with humor. I had a lot of fun clicking around Jason's YouTube channel, and I'll put it on screen share at some point and show you. So I have a special picture to show you of Jason and his late dog, Lukey Dookie. And Lukey is featured on Jason's new book, and a little bit of a backstory. So Lukey, the dog that I was talking about earlier, Lukey passed away April 2016. So this is about a decade ago now, more than a decade ago. And all the stories were written between his walks. So basically, every time Jason walked his dog, these stories would surface in his mind. And arguably, the dog was part of this writing process. So up until Lukey passed away, Jason never thought to publish the literature. And now that it's been, the 10-year mark, he's starting to get busy with this. And so it's a really exciting process. It's really heartfelt. And before I bring Jason to this stage, I wanted to let you know that I'll be reading just right here, right now, a little summary written by Thomas Markham, and he's the owner of Zombie Media Publishing. And this is from Jason's Curbside Grass Short Stories. So these stories were written in the quiet hours between daily walks with a beloved companion during a season of life marked by reflection, routine, and an approaching loss that reshaped everything. What began as a simple creative outlet became a way to hold on to memory, to emotion, and to the fragile moments that define us. This collection of dark, intimate tales explores the fragile edges of human emotion, where love, obsession, loneliness, and the supernatural quietly overlap. Each story follows an ordinary person's lives who is disrupted by something they can't fully explain. A vanishing object that rewrites a relationship, a neighbor whose presence alters reality, a long buried identity awakened by grief, or a stranger whose single whisper unravels 14 years of self-imposed isolation. Set against in quiet apartments, libraries, wooded pathways, and everyday routines, these stories reveal how quickly the familiar can tilt into the uncanny. The characters are not haunted by monsters, but by choices, memories, and the parts of themselves they try to ignore. When the strange finally breaks through, whether through the missing bottle, a mysterious note, a kiss at the door, an expression of truth that they've all been avoiding all along, everything seems to come out. Blending psychological tension with subtle supernatural elements, this collection examines the moments when people lose control of their carefully orchestrated lives and what rises in the silence that follows. These are stories about the hidden forces that shape us, the secrets we keep from ourselves, and the unexpected ways we are transformed. At some point, I'll be reading live Jason's Delusional Heartbreak. It's 7 full pages, so we're going to stay focused. I plan to read maybe not all 7 pages, but at least go through them. You know, it's an interesting story. It's a creepy story. And I don't want to tell you how it ends because you might figure it out. And anyways, let's bring Jason to the stage. And I've got this picture here too. That's his dog, Lucky. So Lukey, excuse me. So we got a cute picture of Lukey and Jason, curb grass, filled with short stories here. Let me bring Jason to the stage. Jason's our first-time guest. Jason, a big welcome to you. I tend to get ahead of myself here, which I'm doing now. So welcome to our show. Thank you for being on Story Species, Story Medicine.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so just to rewind here for a moment, you're minding your own business, going for walks, walking your dog, Lukey, and you just have this information coming to you. Paranormal, haunting type stories. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was away for a while. Then when I came home, I had a full year where I didn't really work much. I just did National Guard 1 weekend a month for that year. So I was with him every single day. So it was kind of funny because when I started writing the book, it was about 6 months before he died. So I finished the last story like within a few weeks of his death. And then I never published the book because he had died so suddenly. So it was just something I put away. And then through a friend I have here in Rhode Island, or he lives in Connecticut, he put me in touch with Diego, the podcaster. Diego put me in touch with Thomas Markham out of Zombie Media. And they asked, what do you have? Because Diego had told me when I was on his show, I published a book through this, person, Thomas Markham at Zombie Media. So I said, hey, I have an entire book that I haven't published yet. It's been sitting for 10 years. So that's why I just put it out April 23rd.
Wow, that's amazing. So I misunderstood that. So the books were already written, the stories were written. You just didn't publish them until basically 10 years after the fact.
Yeah, just sat on a thumb drive. I just, I already wrote 3 books, with my last one being in 2013. And I just didn't do anything with it from that point.
You know, it's amazing, and only you would know the answer to this, but so I published 8 books, and when I published the first 4, I really thought I was going to die. And I thought, if I'm going to do one thing before I die, it's publish these books. Otherwise, I just felt like I would be unsettled. And then once I published them, it was a real thrill, but part of me felt like, okay, I can die now. I'm fine. I published my books. And I wonder, like, do you feel like maybe your dog felt like that? Like the dog was like, I'm gonna die soon. You need to publish these. Like, did you get
Uh,
any kind of synchronicity?
no, not really. With him, I think he would have told me because he ran the house, so he would have found a way to tell me then to publish it at that time. He was kind of the boss, even though
Yeah,
I.
and speaking of the boss, do you think that the dog wrote the stories or part wrote the stories, co-wrote them with you through your
Um,
books?
no, he just gave me the time to do so because we had a pretty good schedule. I'd get up at usually like 5 in the morning, work out, take him on. Well, usually earlier than that sometimes. Do take him on his first walk like 6:30, and then he'd sleep until noon. So that gave me all that time to write. And then he'd go on an afternoon walk. I'd take him on, and then I wrote for like another 2 hours or so until my girlfriend came home. And then after that, I didn't write while she was there. But then we did his 5 o'clock walk, and then his 8:30 run outside before bed.
So when you were walking, did you find that like the stories would continue on, like you would get a download, so to speak, and then you would go home, continue on with your day, and then you would walk the dog again, and it would just like the storyline would continue, almost like a dream unfolding?
Well, they were all different stories. So, like for instance, if I was walking them, let's say today, and I came up with an idea, that idea would take usually 2.5 to 3.5 days to write, and then that story would be done. And I just kind of wanted, I could actually have kept going. I did 17 stories in that one book, and it was a 300-page book. So if he hadn't passed, you never know. That book may have been two books or a 600-page book, because I had so many.
Yeah, and do you have a dog now that you walk with? Have you continued this
Yeah.
tradition?
No, I haven't had a dog since he passed away, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's amazing, because pets are family, and whether the dog was part of the writing process or not, the dog was part of the process where it took you to a place where your mind could open up. And who knows, maybe if you never had Lukey, you wouldn't have had to be forced to go for those walks. Like, who knows what inspired that at heart? But there was some kind of space that was created, some kind of level of comfort where a doorway could open and you could receive information. Now, the thing is, some of your stories are light and fluffy. Some of them are kind of scary and spooky. Some of them are funny. Um, they just range and come as they go. Like you don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, today, it's Halloween season. I'm going to write a spooky story. It doesn't work like that. It just, whatever comes to you.
Yeah. So it could be like a romantic story, but everything I try to put like a little something somebody can take away at the end, and they're usually a little paranormal, or at least strange.
Yes, there's always something mysterious going on. And you know what freaks me out about your videos is that there's something very old school about them because you don't use artificial technology. You just you use technology in the sense that you use a camera to record things, right? And you use lights to your advantage, but you don't use like Canva or play around with video editing systems. So the people in your videos are just, they look like regular people. Sometimes they're dressed up. There's one video I was clicking on. It was some kind of like cardboard robot bad guy that you made. And what was spooky about it was the old school aspect, because when I think old school, at least for me, old school was like before the Steven Spielberg movies, and um, when you think of like clowns in the circus, like the old school clowns and the old school Easter Bunny, they were on the terrifying looking side because you could tell they were people who were just dressed up. And that's what made it scary. And your videos, they remind me of that. It's like it plays with your mind. Like, is this just a person or is this somebody who's like really um like there's a sense that it's more concerning, I guess, and that's what makes it more believable. compared to movies that you might watch today where there's the big scary monster. Like we just kind of think, oh yeah, whatever, scary monster. But when we have like somebody who took the time to put boxes together and to, shake the box so it looks like it's moving, like, I don't know. To me, it was effective. It was effective. I don't know if this means anything to you, but I guess I have an appreciation. I was a public school teacher, and so we always had to pretend, we had to pretend because we couldn't afford fancy things. And when it came to readers' theater, students, they would just pick up anything to be the telephone or whatever. And I can see that creativity in your filmmaking. So any thoughts about anything I just said or...
well, the cardboard robot one, that was actually from 14 years ago. That's like an older film. So that was, and it's weird. I've been using the same camera the whole time. It's a little handheld Sony camera I bought like in 2012. I never really updated it. I only recently got a tripod like about a couple years ago. I am looking to get into bigger and better things, but I'm trying my best to not use AI because I just don't want to. If it comes to the point where you have to use it, I'm all done making films. I won't do anymore, because I think it's taking away from people and the whole thought process. But I can understand why studios would, because they're saving millions of dollars. That makes sense. I mean, overall, when you're at that level, but a lot of times the AI you see doesn't even look that great. Like if you're not using top line, it doesn't look, you know what I mean? It doesn't look like perfect. It looks kind of like, look at people that use cheaper CGI. It looks terrible. I mean, like blood looks like it came out of a video game and so on and so forth. So, I'm trying to keep it as regular as I can or as old school as I can until you have to be the other way,
What is CGI for people who are not familiar with that? CGI, what is that?
I don't even know what the acronym stands for, but it's more like a cheaper AI. The AI of 20, 25 years ago, maybe. It's really computer-enhanced things,
Yeah, you know what? I just made my first 2 mini movies. I don't know if you're aware of that. Yeah. And Michael Kopp helped me with the second one. But the first one I did all by myself. And I really enjoyed it because I used AI. Mm-hmm. It gave me images and a voice, if you will, to try and express myself. But for what it's worth, honestly, like, I kind of feel like, maybe I can get a group of people and dress up and have like more inferring opportunities because the trouble I'm having with the AI is you just can't seem to have enough images. Eventually everybody's images start looking the same. Like I remember before I started learning how to use Canva, especially when I was just making thumbnails for like this kind of stuff. This was like very big time for me, right? Like very out of my element. But I remember being very wowed by people and their technology. And now that I know how to do some of the stuff that I know how to do, I am totally not impressed by a lot of people out there because I didn't realize they're literally just using AI and they're telling the AI to create this, create that. And it does. And unbeknownst, if you don't know any different, it's very wow. But then it's like, oh, all of these movies are losing my attention anyways, because like I said, they're all starting to look the same. And you see that with people, oracle cards, thumbnails that they're creating, whatever it is, it's all like, it looks like the same artwork, basically. So I think you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I like natural stuff, like making it, like even exercise. I mean, like I'm in my 50s and I work out as hard as I possibly can. I don't take pills to be in shape or steroids. I never do anything like that. I just think there's so many ways today to take the easy way around stuff, but it's much more enjoyable. I'm not saying be, stupid and carry 200 pounds down the street when you could drive it in your car to go to the dump, to go to the trash place or whatever. I mean, you wouldn't do that to say I'm doing it harder. You do want some things that are easier because it's common sense based. But when it comes to like exercise, writing, making films, if you're not worried about if you're going to lose $100 million on it or something like that, I would I mean, for me and people like me, I'd rather keep it as much of your own brain creating it than taking something else that anybody can do. Because like if you and I made a vampire movie, let's say, no CGI, you made a vampire movie and I made a vampire movie. We both made a vampire movie. We used no CGI. The movies wouldn't look anything alike, even if we had the same exact script, because it's two separate brains. We're not picking from a pool of graphics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a pool of graphics, and something else I didn't realize was the AI writing piece. Um, because I just typed in story species, story medicine when I was working on the second mini movie, and I got paragraphs of what story species, story medicine is about. And I thought, like, I could just cut and paste this and play it off as my own information, but that wouldn't be authentic. And then somebody else is basically going to have the same information as me. It's going to be awkward because we both have the same information. Like, it really challenges authenticity. And for what it's worth, it's getting a bit challenging to find people to come on my show because all they use is AI. All they use is AI. So they don't know how to talk about their book. Like those of you who are tuning in, I told Jason, hey, give me something to read for 10, 15 minutes. There's probably 45 minutes worth of material. But for what it's worth, some people, they don't want me to read their books because for what it's worth, they didn't write their books. The AI wrote their books. And that's why there's that lack of authenticity, I think too, artificial intelligence is kind of shaping and reshaping how we view things, including angels and ETs, and how we categorize things. Like when I was a kid, 2 angels came out of my wall. And when I described them as tall, and they were white, and they were wide, and they were kind of see-through. And immediately people are like, oh, that's the tall whites. Mm-hmm. Well, they were wide as well. Are there tall wides out there? Or is it just tall whites, And so we actually are limiting ourselves, even though seemingly we're expanding ourselves. Wow. So what's your favorite kind of story to write? Do you get into romantic moods, or do you just what's your style, your favorite?
I'd say a little, almost everything I've written has a little bit of everything. It seems it always ends up that way, with a little romance, like you said, a little bit of romance, some action. There's always drama. Sci-fi is 100%. There's always some sci-fi in there, like an eerie element. And there's always a strong character. Not that he's like He-Man strong, but he's somebody who may not be the character you think, and he can rise up. Not necessarily all the time. And even if he fails in the end, like some of my stories, the main character fails, it's enough that you get something out of it as the reader.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you have short stories. You have your own short stories that you're putting into one book, but then are you also collaborating with other authors where you're each contributing a short story to make a book? I wasn't really sure on that part.
Yeah, I had a guy, Charles Rosenet. He's the one who, it's kind of funny to bring it, his name came up again. He's the guy who introduced me to Diego, the podcaster, which introduced me to Thomas Markham from Zombie Media. But he recently wrote a book, and I did a short story for it. I guess it was a group of authors he asked to contribute to it. And he wants us all at the book signing, I guess, when he does it. I'm not sure when that's going to be. But I said, yeah, I have extra stories. So I took the book Curb Grass, none of that in there is real. That's all fiction. But the story I put in his book was real. So that was a real story. But I'm actually going to be using that story or some of it again in another book I'm doing. I just don't know when I'm going to put that book out. It's going to be a 500-page book. That's all about real stuff that's taking place.
Yeah, who knows, right? The problem I feel like a lot of authors have is once you start writing, you realize you really have too much information. So things start to transform into series or volumes or whatever they are. And my first 4 books was actually one book, but who wanted to buy an 800-page book? So my friend Brian recommended just to make them all 150, 200 pages. And you know what? Like, I don't know about you, but for me personally, like, I like reading books that are about 100 to 300 pages. Over 300, I'm like, okay, this is more of a resource, you know, like I like to just put it in my pocket or whatever. So that'll be exciting. You'll have to keep us updated when all of that comes out. I'm always full of questions here, but the characters in your stories, are they completely different characters every single story, or do you use repeat characters, or do you plan on the characters mingling at some point, bringing the characters together?
Great question. That's a very good question, because the only time I ever intermingled characters was I wrote The Shadow Inside, that came out in '08. Existence to Tale of a Fanged Killer came out in 2010, and then 2013 I wrote a book called Broken Tracks Beneath Forgotten Windows. In Broken Tracks, characters from the first two do cross, and they meet James Threadwelly out of that book. So it's funny that you said that. Yeah, they actually meet. It's the only time I've ever had them, like an actual character you created cross in another story.
I like when that happens because it makes me feel like the world inside the author's mind starts coming together. And you don't realize it, but when you're creating a story, you're really creating a whole entire world, right? Even something like Santa Claus, it's not just Santa Claus, it's the whole like winter environment. It's the reindeer story that goes with it. It's the elves, right? Everybody brings their own element to it. So I think that's really cool. All right. Oh, you know what? Can you scooch a bit to possibly to the right, because yeah, there you go. That's better, because see, I like the nice wide view, but there's also the cell phone view, and you're like this.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're good now. Yeah, now you can strike a pose.
I can probably tilt the camera for you too a little. Yeah.
It was okay like it was. Yeah, it's okay like that.
That's okay. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think you're going to be writing more books, or do you just kind of write them as you feel inspired, or do you set goals for yourself?
Well, with you being a writer, this is something I like to bring up on the air, because this just happened to me. My newest book got flagged on Amazon, and that's something to be very careful of. It got flagged for no reason. So I have Thomas Markham helping me, the guy who published it through Zombie Media. It got flagged because I got too many reviews too quickly, and they thought it was fake. Now, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, that you can buy reviews for Amazon to look like you have more than you really have. And if that's true, I don't know how true that is, but if that's true, it's okay to buy reviews and have fake reviews. But with me having legitimate people buying it from different places, I ended up getting flagged. So now they're trying to lift the flag, because I have somebody I knew who said, oh, I saw your book. And it's not even a friend. It's just somebody I knew of, and I bought it and I can't review it. And I said, why? And she was telling me she's part of a book club. She goes, I reviewed the other two I bought. Yours is flagged. So that's why I've been looking into it. So if you get a new book that you put out, be very careful how quickly you get reviews. But you can't really control it, because if the people that you don't know are buying it, how can you flag somebody? That's just what I'm going through right now. I'm really hoping the restriction gets lifted, because nothing fraudulent was done, and it's really messing up reviews from being put on the book.
Yeah, that's insane, and that's the problem with AIs, right? Like, people do that with their restaurants. They have the AI create reviews, phony reviews. Yeah. I know that you can pay people to create reviews and that kind of stuff, but I wasn't aware that like Amazon creates reviews. But you know what? For what it's worth, like, the AI can create a summary on a book that the AI didn't read. It just looks for patterns, right? So I never thought about it, but why couldn't it create a review as well, right? Yeah, and really, go ahead.
Oh, no, I think people have been paying into reviews to some point. I saw something online about that, but with mine being legitimate reviews, they said they were looking into it because they thought they were fraudulent. That the person bought the book, and then they left the review, and the people aren't even from Rhode Island that bought it. So I'm like, it makes no sense why that would happen. But it's funny that you said that how the AI reviews the book. They do resumes like that too in the United States. You put a resume in for something, they look for key words in the resume. So if you were a complete moron and you made a resume with key words, you would get hired over somebody who could be far more qualified than you, who didn't have keywords. So the foolishness had began a long time ago.
That's actually been going on for a long time. Back when I did my undergrad in like 2000 to 2005 or whatever it was, people were cheating on tests and stuff like that. And it was easy to cheat because basically it was multiple choice. Mm-hmm. And there were studies done, not at my university, but it was talked about at my university, how people created a study and the guy answered every single question C. And he said, when in doubt, choose C. And he passed like all of his tests. He didn't pass with flying colors, but there was some kind of psychology algorithm because he was trying to make it a point that you don't have to study. You just have to master how to pass a test, basically, because and that was a problem. See, now you got me passionate here because I have a really big problem, and you probably too, but like there's a lot of people who are misrepresenting themselves because they have phenomenal memory recall. So seemingly they're very smart people, right? But then it's like they don't apply their skills or knowledge, right? So when I became a teacher, that was the push with the new curriculum. Here in Canada, we have a revised curriculum. There's nothing new about it. It's revised because we said, let's do away with the memorization systems standards. Let's focus on the creativity, right? And I feel like that's the direction your movies are going in, is where's the creativity piece, So do you like to dress up? Like I noticed you play a man in the videos that I clicked on, but do you ever dress up like a woman or a monster or just some kind of radical, I don't know. What's your favorite thing to do to dress up as?
I should have sent you that one. It's called T, Terry, or Teresa. And I actually play, I think, 3 different women in the film. It's a pretty cool movie, and that's actually about a ghost. It's a female that was murdered, and another ghost kind of comes back to avenge her. And it's a cool story, and I think you might like it. And it's filmed old school like that, but it's called T, Terry, or Teresa. And my girlfriend said I make an ugly woman. She goes, "You make an ugly woman," but you'll get a kick out of it if you watch it.
I did click around your YouTube, but I didn't see that one. Maybe it's a good time for me to put it on screen share here. Okay, screen share. I know how to do this. I was going to say too, Jason, something that's a problem right now is people who are jealous, and people who are jealous when they see people like you being successful, what do? Oh, they do things like report you. And, so that crossed my mind when you were talking about frustrations with it being lifted. But anyways, I got it on screen share here. So this is Jason's YouTube channel, and I put the link there. So show Jason some love. I subscribed. And this is a great picture here of this bird. Is this an eagle?
Yeah, it's actually a condor. It was taken in
oh my God.
01 at the Grand Canyon.
Sometimes I can't tell if it's an eagle or a crow even, depending on the angle, but it looked gigantic. But condor, wow.
Yeah, because condors a lot of times have their nests on the sides of a cliff, like, in there like that, and it was coming out full speed out of the canyon, and my friend took that with a telephoto lens. We were up on a ridge, and it came out awesome, though. I always kept that picture on Facebook because I thought it was so cool. And not on Facebook, excuse me, on YouTube.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. Condors are awesome, right? I became an energy medicine practitioner, and eagle tends to get all the attention. Eagle, condor, they're in the same area, same territory. They represent the East. But we always talk about rising above. And so I thought whether you intended to or not, this bird image was really paramount to your YouTube because you're rising above all the pressures to use, artificial intelligence. And you're also rising above with the creativity, but you're rising even higher than eagle. You're at the condor level, Anyways, I'm getting off track here. I tend to get passionate and I go in all different directions here, but this is the one here that I was watching. I won't click on it, but you can see here just with my mouse hovered over it. There's some novelty there. This one here. In all the characters, they look like just regular, everyday people. And I forget which one it was now. It might have been Raiders popped as pipes rattled, but there was a woman sitting at a table and she's just like not impressed. And I don't know if it was this one that Jason sent me, but he sent me some that had knives in it. And I was like, Jason, we're not promoting violence, but if you wanted to look at that, come check out Jason's site here. This one here, Blame. This is like a volume 2, part 2. And we got Lukey Dookie here. There's all kinds of stuff. Oh, I know what I clicked on now. Beautiful dog. But this one here is, I think, what you sent me. And you're like coming out of the ocean or the water with a skull in your hand. And you're very upset. And you're like, don't tell me how to write my stories or something like that. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the outline of it basically is Phoebus, Phoebus stimming, scribbles alone in the basement of his cold, dark home, scratching off images from sudden jerks in the wrist and then scratching off others that wouldn't be missed. He drew what he drew without seeing the paper, but even the paper does not need him to see what he will become and eventually be. That was like the theme of the movie. So Phoebus is like this guy that's doing these drawings in his basement, kind of a closed off individual. And the characters are kind of coming to life and making their own decisions, kind of on his behalf. And he's kind of telling them that, you can't make your own story. I'm the guy who created you. But, they end up kind of, becoming their own thing by the end. And then I had a talk show and I did a tabletop show as well.
Remove myself by accident. Oh, okay. Do you prefer writing movies or making films, or do they both just kind of go hand in hand?
Actually, it's kind of funny. You actually ask a lot of great questions. The books I wrote first. I started off as an extra in like Hollywood movies, and every time it got close to something really turning into something, it just kind of didn't do the timing or whatever. So I got to the point where I just kind of stopped doing that. And I started writing books and just doing it on my own time. And at that time, you figure this is over. You figure the first book came out in 2008. I started writing it in 2006. At those times, I was out going to bars and clubs all the time. So I said, what I want to do is to not do that and see what I can get done in like 6 months. So I actually wrote The Shadow Inside in less time than 6 months. But I wrote it all by hand in a notebook. I didn't even own a laptop then. So now you have to take your scribbles, which I don't know if you ever try to read your own writing after a while. And then I had to take that and put it on a laptop in order to have it published. And that was a lot of work. So, to go from that where I began to screenplay was extremely hard. Most of my short films that I do, if they're 20 minutes or 50 minutes, I don't really use the final draft screenplay format. I more or less write it out on like, you know, sheets of paper on the computer, and then I know what I'm looking at because I'm directing it. But for bigger things like 90-page scripts, yeah, I do them in final draft. And then I, you know, kind of do them up like that. But to do that transition from writing a book to a screenplay for me was very hard. But now I'm very good at the two of them.
Yes, I was going to ask at some point if you write or if you talk into a recorder. I'm like you. I like to write. It just kind of flows. My concentration's there. I think it's a generational thing for us too. But when it comes to reading my own notes, something that really helped me, especially like when my energy was not like at its best, is I would take my headset and I would use Microsoft Word and put it on dictate, and then I would talk and it would type it for me. You just have to make sure it's typing for you, because there's some times where I'm talking away and it wasn't typing what I was saying. Yeah. And it doesn't always get the words right, but I mean, hey, it's something to work with, you know. And something else that I do too these days is I'll have a Zoom meeting by myself and I'll record myself, so it takes minutes. And then I have a transcript that I can work with. Maybe I'll use it, maybe I won't use it. And there's the girl Missy that I was talking about earlier, who travels with her cats. And the cat, like she calls herself a grid worker. You two would probably connect because you walk and get story information, and she drives and gets story information. And anyways, like I guess I'm just kind of scattered here now, but when it comes to writing the story, that's where she's struggling, because she loves to talk. She probably was an orator in a past life, but to sit down and write, that's not her thing. And I was like, but Missy, when you're on my show, when you're on somebody else's show, you look at the transcript, that's your story right there that you can work with. And a lot of people don't realize that. So there are the pros and cons to AI. But anyways, do you ever find yourself just grabbing your cell phone and talking to tell the story so you don't forget it or something like that?
No, I scribble things on like napkins, like if I'm somewhere, you know, like a piece of paper or whatever, the back of a menu. I used to have like a clothesline. I had a condominium before this, so upstairs there I had 2 poles at my desk, and I'd run a string with little clips of notes. And then I'd also color coordinate things, or I'd put a date and everything. Like, let's say I wasn't going to go back to what I wrote for a while and I thought it was a good idea. I'll write down like the weather, the day, what I was going through at that time. That way, when I go back to it, I can always go back to the moment.
And when you were talking about the clothesline, that got me excited, because I thought about me being a public school teacher, because we would do stuff like that. We would be like, you know, what was the beginning of the story? What was the middle? What was the end? And we would, like, you know, put it on a line. Was that kind of what you were doing? Was it just like a line, like here's a bunch of random notes? Or was it like kind of, oh, this is the beginning of the story, the setting? Or like, how did you use your clothesline?
It usually started off one way and then ended up a mess. So I go back, and it didn't matter how well I organized it. A month or 2 later, you go back to it, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. I had to, this is good, but then I'd sometimes use it for something else, you know, because so much time had passed. But like I always tell people, like you said, your friend has trouble putting the story together. Good thing to tell her if she watches this is beginning, middle, and end. As simple as that. And write those 3 things down. As long as when she's writing, she knows she finished the beginning, she hit her peak of whatever that would be. And a good analogy for that would be going to a movie. You're excited about a movie, you're telling people about a movie, or inviting people to go with you for the movie. That's the beginning. You get in the car, you drive to the movie, you go out and eat, you see it, you get a certain feeling, talk about it on the way home, and then you push it off on other people. Oh, you got to see this movie. It did this for me. This character did that. And then other people would have seen it, maybe the ones that weren't with you, and you get their feedback. So beginning, middle, and end, it's just huge. And you could do it with anything. I always just use that as a description for people to kind of help them to write.
As you're talking, I'm like, yes, 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 because I just went through this with another presenter for summer days because she had too many ideas on the go. So I got together with her, Slavka, the natural sentient, and I said, okay, you do the talking and I'll do the typing, and I basically created a chart with 5 areas: beginning, middle, end, and then there was like introduction, conclusion. So there was 5 spaces, right? And so that really benefited her, just to have somebody like me, just you do the talking, I'll do the typing. So when she talked about her mom, I put that over in this block. When she talked about something else, it went in a different block. And then you see it, right? And I think that's part of the story medicine, is organizing it, organizing your thoughts, organizing the process, and really facing it, because this story medicine is a step-by-step process that the logical mind demands. We demand a beginning, middle, end. We demand a box to put our thoughts in. The trouble is we get stuck in that box. We demand symbols. We demand themes. Otherwise, we don't understand anything. And that's our hero's journey. That's the greater hero's journey. I got lots more questions for you, but now might be a good time for me to start reading. And then do you want to say anything before I get busy doing that?
Well, I mean, we have a pretty good flow. If you even wanted to skip the reading, we could keep talking. I mean, what do you think the audience would like better?
Yeah, well, what we could do is we could talk about the reading, because the reading is kind of creepy. Like, basically, it's a story about a woman who gets murdered, and there's a man. I forget the names. I'm bad with names, okay? But there's a man who's basically like, oh, like he's infatuated with this girl. Once upon a time, they dated, and honestly, I feel like they didn't date. I think it was just in the guy's head. I was going to ask you about that. Like, I don't think they ever dated. But this is.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry with that.
Go ahead.
I'll cut you off. Sorry with that.
So I read this story, but now I'm like, okay, what happened again here? No pressure. The author is here live with me. But like, so when I read the story was the man's perspective.
Yeah.
So from the man's perspective, him and this woman, they were in love and everything was great, and they broke up and years had gone by, but he still thought about her. But when I was reading it, I was like, this guy's a creep. I'm getting the feeling that he never dated this girl. He was just always like watching her, and in his mind, they were in a relationship. But then the woman, one day, he went to go visit her and found her dead. And I'm like, well, what are you even doing there? Like, it wasn't clear, and it just, the guy made me feel creeped out. And then there was like, he felt anger that she was dead. And it was almost like he felt a sense of possession. Like he knew he needed to call the police and report like that there had been a murder, but part of him didn't want anybody touching her. And there was like the letter O on her shirt, and inside, like you mentioned that a number of times, right inside the letter O is where she got stabbed. And he took the knife from her because he felt that like he wanted to give it back to the guy who murdered her. And when I read that, I started feeling sorry for him. I started feeling sorry for having the thoughts that I had earlier. I thought, oh no, this guy isn't a pervert. Maybe this guy really did have a loving relationship with this girl. And now this, finding her murdered. Because I thought that's, because I mean, I don't know what it's like to find somebody murdered, but I never thought about it. But like, if I ever find somebody murdered, like I might just keep that knife and be like, I'm going to give this back to the murderer, like I just, okay. Maybe I need to edit that part out of here, but it just like I guess it made me feel like I'm going to take care of business that the police aren't going to take care of, like it made me feel like he was going to be manly. And I thought that was the direction the story was going in. I thought, oh, the story's going to go, and I like to infer. So people who are listening to me who like to infer, this is a good story to read with lots of inferring, because I thought, oh, now the story's going to go in a direction where this guy's going to reveal that he has the knife, but he needs to do it in secret. So he needs to like be the police officer and find the murderer and then be like, recognize this or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's totally not what happened. And then you learn at the end of the story that the guy basically admits that he killed the girl. And the story just basically comes to an end. It's like all this anticipation and everything. And it's just like the last paragraph or whatever, it's almost confusing for the reader. You're like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, wait, what? Did he just admit that? And oh, now the story's over? Wait, what just happened here? And it was like, it was an enjoyable read, you know.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? That was really scattered sounding. Hey, I was prepared to read it, not to reiterate the summary.
Well, a big part in there is, do you remember the piece when he walks by her and shows her the old photograph of himself? Remember that? He has like, because in the description of his clothes kind of being bigger than they were kind of loose on him. He was actually something at one time. Like, he was a handsome guy and he never had to, you know, hit on girls. Women would just look at him, wow, he's a good looking guy. So that part where he shows this pretty young girl the picture, she just looks at it like, hey, it's a picture. You know what I mean? And, you know, nice picture. And like basically saying to an elderly man, wow, you were handsome. But to him, there's no were. His were is gone. He's never going to get that back. And this is all that's left. Because he kind of lived a life where you took advantage of your own looks and that you are handsome and that you are ahead of other people. But when that all collapses, I mean, I tell a lot of people this, it's great to be confident. It's great to try to be in charge of your life the best that we can, because we're never really in charge of anything. Whether you're a trillionaire or whatever, you're never really in charge of anything. Life is in charge. So if you are that person that is doing fantastic, you really have to stop and think that if it all ends and you're either dying on your deathbed or in prison, who's going to come see you? Now, just because you're that handsome person, let's say you are very nice to people your whole life, that still doesn't mean anybody's going to be there when you need them. But it may make it, maybe it would lessen the blow if you were in that situation. You know what I mean? Because we were thinking back, geez, I'm in this situation because I was an ass. And that's not necessarily the case, because you could be a very nice person and end up in that same situation. But the blow is lessened if you're not so much of an ass. You know what I mean? Throughout your life. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes absolute sense. And I forgot about that part. So when you're like the photograph, I'm like, wait, I'm like scanning my brain but I remember that part. That's closer to the end.
Yeah.
And that was a part where I was feeling sorry for him, because I started thinking, oh, you know, once upon a time, he was a handsome young man. Now he's all old. And then you describe it well, like just like the yellowing of his fingernails or whatever it is you say. Like, it's like he's not cool anymore. He's not handsome anymore. Girls are not impressed. He doesn't have that same, you know. And you know what? Whatever we can't have, we tend to destroy. So it's kind of like time warp. Now he's an old man, and all these years have gone by. And that girl, well, he still thinks she's pretty, but she's getting older too. But you know what? All this, like, is that why he killed her? Like, I'm an old man now. Like, why did he kill her is what I was wondering. Like, he just was delusional and sick in the head and killed her? Or was there, like, I'm old, you're old, we're both old now, I never got to marry you, so I'm just going to kill you. And there was, like, a fixation in between that letter O. I was going to ask about, like, the letter O. It's like a bullseye.
Yeah, it was basically like her death signified his own self-loathing. Like, he self-loathed to such a degree that this, you know, a girl that was as beautiful as she was 30 years ago would have been, hey, look at him, da, da, da. And that no longer exists. So that death, her death, was such a point of self-loathing. It was basically more or less manifested by him. You know what I mean? Like the death until it was actually real. There's a movie like that too, and this book has not, I mean, that story has nothing to do with the movie. But you ever see the movie The Clearing? Came out in 2004 or 6 with Robert Redford and Willem Dafoe. Dafoe basically takes Robert Redford prisoner in the story. And Redford doesn't realize it, but at one point, when Redford owned a huge company, Defoe had worked for him. And, he was always very nice to one another and this and that. But the way Defoe's character was able to capture Redford, he thought about it every single day, every step, all the way down to the weather, birds chirping and things like that, so he could get this guy. And the guy really didn't do anything wrong, but him going after Redford was 100% jealousy based, because when Defoe's character lost everything, he never got it back in his life. Redford's character was the kind of guy, he could lose everything, be living in a dumpster, and then in 6 months be building himself up again, because he was just that guy. You know what I mean? It's either you are or you're not, and Defoe's character wasn't. So in this story that you read, the one in the Curdgrass, this guy's character probably thought he was more of the Redford, but he really wasn't. In the end, he was more of the Defoe. That's actually a great analogy. I never used that before. I got to use that again. That was a good one. It's a good way to describe that story if somebody asks,
Yeah, I mean, I like to infer, and I think that's the nice thing about reading stories, is that you can't expect the author to put every single detail in there. And children's books are nice because you have pictures to rely on to help you make sense of things. But, these other books, it's just, here's some black and white. What do you do with it, right? And what's nice about inferring is sometimes the author specifically intends to mean something. And sometimes the author doesn't even know what they mean. They're just like, this is what happened. This is a character that I'm representing, and I'm not really sure what they're communicating. And it's basically up to the readers to decide. But the readers, they don't even recognize their own empowerment. And they're like, well, the story's only about what the author said it's about. So, I don't know. How do you feel about inferring? Like, would it upset you if somebody was misinterpreting your story, or would you just be like, well, that's how they interpret it?
No, not at all. I think that's better to misinterpret it. I mean, unless your main goal is to lead somebody down a direct path. Any movie has interpretation, like even Rocky. Like Sylvester Stallone says, Rocky is the furthest thing on earth from a sports movie. It has nothing to do with sports. Sports is what it's described as to bring out the human spirit. That's really what it's about. It's about somebody you could be as beaten down as his character was, and then, get a 1 in a million chance. And sometimes 1 in a million chances, this isn't him saying it, this is me saying it, they're really there for almost everybody. You have to find them. They're not going to be dropped in your hand. They're really there, but you got to sift through it and find it. And a lot of it is pushing away our own loathing, our own, I can't and I don't want to. I mean, because I'm the king of that. And I've beaten a lot of that. I've come a long way. I was always that guy who, I can't do this. This isn't going to work. And I'm in my 50s now, and I'm only starting now to begin to fix it. And, it's actually getting fixed because I'm finding ways to fix things.
Yes, and good for you. It's inspiring to hear that, and I don't think people out there can really hear it enough. Procrastination. I mean, sometimes we're lazy and we just don't want to do things because we just don't want to do them, But when it comes to procrastination, the tip I always give, not that you asked me for tips, but like the tip I always give myself is do what you don't want to do first. That way it's just check off list done, right? But in truth, when I became a hypnotherapist a handful of years ago now, it was really bizarre to learn that a lot of us actually procrastinate because we're afraid of our own success. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with being lazy. It's kind of like a double-sided coin. Like, yeah, it could be because you're lazy. We don't want to dismiss that. But also because we're afraid of our own success, because, oh my God, what about if we are successful? Then what? And being successful, that's not a familiar feeling for a lot of us. And to be fair, when we're born babies. We have to grow and learn. So nobody is born successful. That's not a familiar feeling. It's a feeling that we have to sink ourselves into and get to know and grow with. So now that you're being successful, putting things out there on YouTube, publishing your book, getting your word around. Like, I mean, how do we really measure success? Do we measure it in cash dollars? Do we measure it just, by quantity or quality? And we always want to go for the quality, right? But very sadly, we live in a world where quantity seems to be the winner. And so seeing past that, and I feel like the future is going in a direction where we don't really care about quantity anymore. We care about quality. Like, we'd rather have one of Jason's films that's authentic, no AI and whatnot, versus something that it's just AI. And I personally find a lot of not only movies, but stories in general are very plot driven, because people can't handle complex thoughts like they used to once upon a time, because we're being dumbed down. And action movies, I mean, I like a good action movie, but I feel like there's too much action. The actual story gets lost. It's just like a bunch of car racing, you might as well watch car racing. So anyways, I like to think, and you got my gears growing. What else did I write here? Rambo 4. Yeah. So I don't watch a lot of Rambo type movies, but I went through a little phase where I made it a point to watch all the Rambos, and Rambo 4 is hands down a scary movie. Oh yeah. Not because of the blood and gore, because the reality, right?
Yeah, he was awesome in that. He actually put on something like 30 pounds of muscle at 60 years old in the 4th Rambo. Remember that one? He was huge. Yeah, he had traps like this. He was enormous in that movie. But yeah, I thought that was great. And even the last one. Have you seen the 5th one?
I didn't know there was a 5th. I think number 4 was good enough for me.
Oh, the 4th one's excellent. He's back home, because at the end of part 4, he takes that road home back to his father's house. I guess it's a ranch he owned. You think that's the end, but part 5, he has a niece. He's living with a lady and her daughter, I guess, and he kind of raises the girl. Well, the girl wants to go find her father and goes into Mexico. And I guess the cartels or the traffickers end up making her a slave, and she dies. So Stallone goes after them and draws them to his farmhouse and kills all of them. And it's a bloody movie, but the way they filmed it was excellent, just showing the pain that he had knowing that she died. And even though he warned her, don't go, she still went, and he, of course, felt guilty. But I think that was probably one of the best Rambos out of all of them. He was in his 66 when he made it. But it was very believable.
As I get older, I forget folks like Stallone are getting older too, right? And I'm like, what? Like 66? And that was a while ago now, right?
He might have been older than that. He's 70. This July, he'll be 80. That came out in 2019. So, yeah, he's about 63 then, 64 when he made it. He's a machine. It really is.
Yeah, it makes me feel inspired. Folks like Mick Jagger and whatnot. There's still, when Ozzy Osbourne died, that surprised me. I'm still processing it. I'm like, he's not dead. It's not, I don't know. Ozzy Osbourne's going to live forever.
Aerosmith, too. They've been making music since before I was born. I've been to their concerts and things, and they were doing stuff in the early 70s,
So maybe you'll be like them, but like in your 60s, you'll produce some other random film or whatever, or just kind of getting started.
I hope so. I want to be able to get to the level. I don't care about multi-millionaire stuff like that. I don't want red carpets and awards. I mean, even in the military, I wasn't really an award-focused guy. It's like I'm not into big groups, like ceremonies. I know it's needed, and of course, it's customary, but myself, I mean, I'd rather if I got an award, just leave it on my desk. But with writing, as long as people are watching it and I'm making money and people are coming to me saying, hey, can you do this, this, and this and get it to me in 2 months? That's where I want to be. I always want to be gainfully employed for creativity, because you're not going to a regular job. You're not punching a clock 9 to 5. You're sitting at a table and writing and doing your own stuff. To me, that's like, it's unbelievable. That would be a perfect world.
Well, it's a lot of fun to do that too, right? And if you need content, I've got lots of content if you want to make it into movies. I can't pay you, though. That's where I'm at in my journey. But, I think it would be really fun Because part of my movies is that it embodies all different kinds of realities. So I like having the AI because I can create cartoony type realities, right? But then I need to have like this planet Earth reality mixed in there too, right? I also wrote down still shots because on Star Wars, there's that famous scene where the big skeleton dinosaur looking folk are moving forward. And the people who created that literally had to like move it, take a picture, move it, take a picture. And I thought that's really amazing. And it's like, oh yeah, you know, you just do that with AI these days, but you don't get that same feel good vibe and accomplishment of doing the still shots, you know, or back in the Pinocchio days when somebody was drawing on a paper and then they would like turn the paper like this, like an accordion, and it would look like Pinocchio's juggling or something, like still shots. And I thought it's the thinking that goes hand in hand with this. So, yeah, anyways, I was going to ask, do you ever do something like still shots?
I have one I'm working on. It's funny you said that again. All these stuff, it's like you pinpoint your questions. They're excellent questions because it's kind of like you know what I'm gonna, you know, like you're a step ahead of me on your questions. I'm working on one now called Gemmy, Gemmie, and it's going to be really creepy and eerie. And it's based on an idea that I had 10 years ago when I wrote my book. But I'm making this into a film, and it's going to be a little bit like Radiators Popped as Pipes Rattled on my YouTube channel, and seemingly Curtis Cusbelch, where it's all done with one camera. Like one of those films, I think it was Curtis Cusbelch, is over 400 scenes, all done with one camera. So this one will probably be more because I'm going to be doing the still frame, like you said, where I turn this puppet I'm using, turn it, film it, turn it, film it. So like one scene might end up being like 50 cuts to make it look real.
And you know what? I feel like this is all rising to the level of art. Because some people are listening to this and going, well, that's going to take 500 years. You can just use AI and do this. But then other people are going, no, because it's art, right? It's art, the whole entire process. Wow. I wrote down Blair Witch Project. I thought about that a long time ago, but I forgot to bring it up. Like, I always wanted to create a movie like Blair Witch Project because it's just like people running around with their cameras. Super shitty movie, right? But it got people curious. And the fact that it was created by amateurs, people were just interested in watching it. And the movie made millions, right? But the Blair Witch Project, did we actually learn anything about witches or anything? No, it was just a bunch of kids running around, right? Like, I think, I don't know. Do you ever feel like doing something like that where you're just running around with your camera and I don't know?
Well, the Blair Witch Project, I tell you, it took folk stories like the Blair Witch and made it even more scary because if you put yourself in their shoes, you lost your map. They probably didn't know how to read the map to begin with. They all smoked, didn't have cigarettes, had no food, no water, were turning on one another. They were cold, scared, lost, going back to the map. And on top of it, they all had like other ideas. Like when you go out for a weekend adventure, of course you have Monday coming up. Now their Monday is coming up and they're still on that adventure. So what they went through, when I watched it back in '99 or whenever it came out, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was a cool concept. I thought it was real in '99. I didn't know. I was like, wow, it looks like real footage. But if you look back on it, in the perspective of everything that they went through, and then you got to think of the heavy gear and imagining something being after you, and it's unexplainable. Then when one person's missing, they went through every element of any horror movie. Because you think even The Exorcist, you could have ran out of the house and got out of there. At least you could get away from it. There, you can't get away. You're stuck. You're in the center of a horror movie and one you created. So now you're even feeling bad because you're missing your family and you're never going to see them again, like the video she made. So in a lot of ways, that's probably one of the most frightening movies ever if you put yourself in their shoes.
Yep, well said, well said. I remember thinking it was real too when it came out. I remember thinking this is like real stuff here. They're
Mm,
just saying it's not true, but this is a real story about kids who, got lost and stuff.
mm,
I was too scared to watch it. I don't watch scary movies. They get in my head. Um, but what's interesting is the psychology. Like Rob Zombie's The Devil Rejects. There's
yeah.
really not a lot of blood and gore in that movie, but the psychology is very disturbing. And same with Will Smith, that movie Legend. That was
Yeah.
a great movie, but I only watched it once. I'll never watch it again because it gets to me up here.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that there's some kind of we are zombies. Like without spirit, we're raw biologicals, right? You're the biological one known as Jason. I'm the biological one known as Gina, and we do become more conscious. I think, anyways. So, what happens when our minds are confused, if you will, and like I don't believe zombie eat brain, but I believe that we can be very irate in a state of confusion. Just the way the whole movie starts out,
Mm.
speaking about technology, because the technology fails and then everybody loses their shit. Anyways, um, um, yeah, my mind's just kind of going everywhere now.
You know, it's funny. I'd
But
like to go back to something that you said. You brought up a good point when you talked about people sabotaging themselves when it comes to success. It's kind of like I was trying to think of what to compare it to. It's like taking Stockholm syndrome and Munchausen disease, but Munchausen your own life, not a kid or anything to edify yourself. You've worked. Let's say you worked 10 years to get something done. Um, the Stockholm syndrome is the captor who has you captive is yourself fighting, not winning or whatever. And now that you see the light, you don't even want to leave. You want to stay in the road to get there rather than getting there. So that could be kind of like Stockholm syndrome. And then the Munchausen is everything that you've done. You're sabotaging your own projects to edify yourself in a way of sadness rather than you being the person that got there. So if you took both of those syndromes, even though they really don't apply, they kind of can apply in a way because you're taking them and using them like the descriptions of them against yourself. So really, that's a prime example of your own worst enemy. You know?
yes, I like that. And I like how you said that being your own worst enemy. And I wrote down Lushing, the good guy and the bad guy are the same guy. Because in my book, Lushing, that I wrote, it's a short story. And then I created a 3-4 minute mini movie.
Right.
And like basically in the story, I don't like the Lushers because they kill the children, but and they're like bullies, right? Because basically when they're around, well, you're gonna die. But the thing is like after the story, the Grim Reaper comes to collect the souls. And in the story, I'm this ghosty girl. So the children, they don't even know about me. I play with them. I have a good time, but they're not aware of me because I'm a ghost.
Right.
So the Luciers come and kill them. And the story goes on. But then when it ends, I talk to the Grim Reaper. And he basically tells me, don't hate the Luciers because the good guy and the bad guy are the same guy. Everybody needs to eat. And for what it's worth, when the Luciers killed the children, they just like got it over with. The children didn't suffer. They didn't mock the children. It wasn't like a horror movie in that sense. So he really challenges my thinking. But when I was reading the story, like the one that we were talking about earlier, where the guy kills the girl Sophia, or not Sophia, Selena. Her name was Selena in the story. Like it made me think about that the good guy and the bad guy are the same guy.
Yeah.
So anyways, what are your thoughts on that the good guy and the bad guy are the same guy? Because even in that story with Selena, he's not a serial killer, but like he's a good guy, but he's also a bad guy because he committed murder. Like you can't,
Well, I think because we're full of chemicals, people. Where even the most balanced person is chemically imbalanced. in a way, because I mean, think of the things we're fighting. Even people out there that are Like there's guys out there that are special forces, rangers, they're that smart and that mentally powerful to be able to, physically, mentally, and driven to get these type of schoolings done and be in those type of units. And that's extremely impressive. I find it extremely impressive. But at the same time, imagine the chemicals, like the natural human chemicals that they're fighting against, and suppressing to get to that point. When you okay? When you got like 100, let's say you got 100 people going for something and only 10 graduate or 20 graduate, and you were among that, percentage that graduated. In some military schools are even worse, where they have 100 people and 5 graduate, or even worse than that. You're among the passing of that. You had to suppress so much inside, pushing through pain, hunger. Yeah, we're nothing but all chemicals that can be balanced, but it's easier said than done. And for people that can do it, I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, those are very good points. And Mark Twain had a good quote. It sounded really fancy, but he basically says everybody has the capacity to go insane, depending on how you're treated and whatnot. And these days, we know through Dr. Bruce Lipton's research how important epigenetics are, how important the environment is, because nobody's born evil, like there's reasons why people act and do things the way that they do, not to justify those behaviors, but that's all part of being humble too, is admitting and accepting that these kind of things happen, like murder, but that we're not going to let it rule our lives. And being humble means like admitting it, because I think a lot of people, when they accept it, they confuse that with it being okay. It's not okay that somebody was murdered, We don't hear about Selena's family or anything like that either, going back to the story that we were thinking about. So, sorry, I'm kind of going in all directions now. Now I'm going back to the first story that we were at.
Conversation is supposed to bounce around.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of notes here, but I think I wrote all my notes down. Tomorrow is never promised. At some point you were talking about life in general, and I put down tomorrow is never promised because we always act like we have tomorrow when we don't, or we procrastinate because we think, well, I'll have tomorrow, when tomorrow is never promised for whatever reasons. And I published an oracle, and there's a card that talks about this. And it basically says it's always hard for those who are last. Tomorrow is never promised, but it's always hard for those who are last, yet they live like tomorrow is promised. So it basically means like if somebody told you, hey, you're going to die tomorrow, like do your laundry, take out your garbage. Because most people are like, well, I'm going to die tomorrow. I'm just going to leave my garbage there and not worry about my laundry. But like the power of humility is saying, do it anyways, because what if you actually live tomorrow? Now you're living with a bunch of garbage in your house. Now you have a bunch of dirty laundry. Like die in a clean house. When you were talking about it, you were passionate. It'll make sense better when you watch the replay.
It's funny too, like when you think of like, I do this sometimes if I don't have a lot, that let's say you have a day where you're down and you don't feel like you've accomplished a lot, make a simple list that you can accomplish that day, even if it's foolish things, like things that aren't an accomplishment. But one of them you said, like take out the trash, like organize the recycling, shave your face. Not that you shave, but I shave my face. So shave your face, like things that you would do, try to make a list of like 10 or 15 things that you are able to do, and have a physical list where you cross them off when you're done. So even if that day you were very depressed and down and you got nothing done, you still technically got 15 things done that you may have spread out throughout the week. And they were within your realm to fix. And I do that a lot when I feel like I'm not getting somewhere, because like when you're writing, like, writing and filming, you're not always going to get somewhere, but what you're making has to get somewhere for you.
As you're talking, I'm like, yes, 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 because we do a lot of things just because it's a way of knowing, and we really don't realize how much we accomplished. It's like, well, you know, like when I became a teacher, one of the first things we talked about was time management, especially when you're working with the little ones. It's not actually the kids that are running late, it's the parents who are running late, it's the parents who are stressed out, and then the kids are stressed out because now they don't have enough time to get ready and whatever. But they said, like, they set us up for success, so they didn't tell us any of this, and they just said, like, write down on a piece of paper what you do before you come to school or go to work, like wash up, make your breakfast, whatever. And it's like, basically the point is you have this big giant list of things that you did, and you still haven't even really started your day. Like, you're just now going to work or school, right? So it's a testament of all the things you accomplish, that the time needed to accomplish those things without being stressed out, and to try and make it an enjoyable experience. A while ago when you said screenplay, I meant to write this down, but I wrote it down now. When you transform a story into a screenplay, do you formalize it in the sense where it's like if I was a character in your story, it would say Gina, and then it would have like Gina's lines. And then if you were my brother, it would say Jason, and then Jason's lines. Like, do you have to take the time to rewrite it like that? Like, I don't know I guess that's called a screenplay when I call it reader's theater because I taught elementary school, but like, what's the adult version? Is that a screenplay where
what you'd be doing more or less is you're taking a book where in a book you figure you can put anything. You can build other worlds, galaxies. You never have to show them, only in somebody's imagination. With a screenplay, that's the complexity of it, because you really, like, for instance, you're somebody wanting a movie made, and you gave me a book. It's on me to look through that book and then give you a price of what that screenplay will cost you to make, in a sense. If I'm going to be, I could always just write it, but then you're going to be writing something, and if it's extremely expensive, you're leaving a ton out because it's a dollar value. So when I do screenplays, I know how to extract from a story and make a screenplay, but I also know that if I'm doing it from a story, and let's say you said you're going to pay me $3,000 for the screenplay, I have to be able to tell you up front. I said, what you gave me is going to cost you through the roof to make. Do you have a story that's not as complex? Because it's based on budget. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like Star Wars, they must have had a monstrous budget to make movies like that. Because if you're using a lot of different things that you don't have access to, that's all it costs. That's why you see a lot of movies are very inexpensive. They take place at a house, in a backyard, things people have access to. Once you get everything else in it, now you have to make it seen on a camera. And if it's easy to do it in a book, but how do I show this in a script? You'd have to rewrite the whole thing to make it, something that's sensible and costs, within the dollar value.
Yeah, with my mini movies, there's lots of inferring. Let's just put it that way. And it was really challenging to make, because my movie Lushing was a short story. It's only about 20 pages. But like, I had to just say to myself, well, people are going to have to infer, and I'm going to have to accept that I'm an amateur too, right? But when I was transforming it into a mini movie, I definitely felt like I needed to basically rewrite the whole thing and have like lines that people were going to say. And even just trying to divide it up, like, that famous saying, the book's always better. Like, now I really appreciate that, because the stuff that I had to cut out of my own movie, like, I mean, wow. What about children? Have you ever thought about creating something for children, or do you hope that maybe children will get their hands on your work, or do you just specifically want to target adults?
I have thought about doing a children's book. But I have, like, a lot of the stuff on YouTube, I always click that it's not for children when you're loading it, because you never know, you don't want your movie to get flagged. Even though there's really nothing bad in my films, I always put it not for children. But kids are going to watch it anyway. I mean, but it's like, you're watching regular television, you're seeing far worse than what you'd see on my channel. So yeah, I would like to do a children's book one day. I just don't know how I would present it. You know what I mean? But I'm kicking some ideas around though. Something short, like 20 pages.
Well, like children love Halloween stories, right?
Yeah.
That's the when they're like, is this real, And there's always like the new kid at school kind of weird person that ends up being an ET or whatever, or has some kind of secret key that opens the whatever teacher's desk to find the something. I could see you making something like that. I think
Like
that
the
would be
faculty,
fun.
right? Remember that? The faculty?
A faculty?
Yeah, have you ever seen that movie?
No.
That's just like what you said. There's a new
Oh,
girl in school, but she's an alien. They find out she's an alien. It's a good movie,
oh,
actually. That came out
okay.
in 97, I think.
Cool. Yeah, I never saw that. Yeah, because when I taught kindergarten to grade 9, a lot of kindergarten, and it's always concerning around Halloween and stuff like that because a lot of the kids, they want to be tough. And when they think of being tough and being fearless, they think of the wrong images, and a lot of them want to be gangsters. And I overhear them, just a friendly gangster, right? There's no such thing as a friendly gangster, like, you know. But me too, all my stuff says 18 plus. And I know that children are like, oh yeah, I'm 18, click. Okay. And there's nobody to monitor it. I didn't do it because I was afraid to get flagged. It's because, at the time I was on a medical leave and, I was still employed as a teacher. So everything was 18 plus because I didn't want to hear it from the parents. I wanted to keep my business completely separate. Yeah. But even though I've resigned from teaching, everything is still 18 plus because I don't want to deal with it. I saw this thing on, I don't know what I was watching, but it was about the guy who created Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, whatever his name is. And, I didn't know this, but children committed suicide online on Facebook and nobody was there to monitor. Like, who would be there? I never thought about it. Anybody can go live anytime. So the parents basically were suing him, and that's what it was about. And he actually lost and he had to apologize. And that's why Facebook had to do whatever they had to do now. And YouTube and stuff like that was because that kind of stuff was going on. And so I was just like, you know what? This is an 18 plus platform. I just don't want anything to do with it, at all, which is unfortunate because children are the future. They're the now, But anyways, I think the children who would do well hearing these stories will hear them regardless, and it'll get to the right people. I think just the public school teacher in me now is like, oh no, the children, but part of me is like, I don't want the children to be a part of this. I like using swear words and stuff like that. There's also a time and place for children, and developmentally too. We don't talk about that a lot, right? But like developmentally, these themes and whatnot inspire children. And I think too, like with mental illness on the rise and whatnot, it's important to have these conversations because even like what we were saying before, like about Mark Twain and stuff, like anybody has the potential to go in this direction, right? And it's like you write a mixture of fiction, nonfiction. So it gives you kind of like that ping pong table of themes to bounce around. Like, imagine this story was true, or thank goodness this story is a fake story, and yeah, I don't know. Just so I tend to throw a lot at my guests, but is there anything that you were burning to say that you didn't have a chance to say, Jason? Or
no, I think I'm trying to think. Well, the new book. You got Curb Grass, short stories written between walks. That's out there. 2 films this year I did. Radiators popped as pipes rattled, and seemingly Curtis Cussbelch, both on my Jason J Tavares YouTube channel. I would like to say though that you have to stop listening to other people, and it's very hard to make your business your own. because people put it on Facebook and they do all this stuff. But you do have to have your own business. Not everything needs to be posted. If you watch like Facebook, I just got back on Facebook about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I was off it for years and years and years. Now I came back on because it is a good platform. But there's people, they'll post everything on there, cooking some eggs, making breakfast. Who cares? Nobody cares you're making breakfast. Or, yeah, I'm really sick today and I did this. It's like, that's all part of your personal life. I mean, if you want to share it, that's good. But you have to have something in your life that's yours. Otherwise, nothing's yours. And people are always fighting for rights. I have no rights. You're giving it all away. You're telling everybody every bit of you have something that's yours. I think that's important. But where that balance is, I don't know, because I'm not an expert in anything. But I'm just saying, I think it's, I mean, there's a lot of stuff happens in my own life that I'm not putting on this computer. I just doesn't make sense to, you know.
Yeah, I'm a very open person. I feel like when Facebook first came out, it was perfect because at that time I taught English in South Korea and people were creating blogs. That was the cool thing to do. And then somebody told me about Facebook and I'm like, oh, this is so much easier than a blog because you just upload your pictures, whatever, it's user friendly, right? But now Facebook, it's like, yeah, like some people, they use it just for their business. Some people, they use it just for like family photo albums. And then you've got people who are hardcore trying to get views and posting everything, like you said. There's a few belly dancers I follow, and they're kind of getting like that now because, you know, you see them shimmy and they go to these really big fancy weddings in Egypt, right? And then the belly dancer comes and it's just like a really cool looking scene. But now they're like, let me know any questions you have in the comments, and people want to know about their hair and makeup routine. So now I'm like, I don't want to see this behind the scenes. I just want to see the glory, you know? That's just funny.
Stomach routine, belly dancer must be good on the abs. Like you got Shakira. Shakira does a lot of those kind of moves, and she has a flat stomach. So I imagine it's beneficial for people if they don't want to do traditional exercising. Learning belly dancing is probably good for the midsection, I can imagine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love watching dancing and stuff like that. It's beautiful. And you know what, too? Like with Facebook, when you start like liking and sharing things, now it's picking up. The AI does this. It starts introducing you to other stuff too, right? So, yeah. I tend to follow people on YouTube over Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. So on that note, I got Jason's YouTube up there on the screen if anybody's interested. But I want to show this picture of your dog again. There we go. It's just so cute, eh? And then this cover here with the dog's ear flipped, I think it's so cute. And I was wondering, is that the real dog on the cover, or is it like just it looked like the dog?
That's the real dog. Is I guess Thomas Markham, because he designed the cover. He did a little bit of computer graphics on him, but not much. I mean, like for me to look at that, that's exactly him. The background he did change though, but he was at the door when I snapped that picture. And he had, I guess, I only had him for 4 years. I inherited it from somebody who left him to die, basically in a basement, give or take. That's another story. But when I got him, he had a broken ear because when he was a puppy, I guess, his brother bit his ear and broke his ear. So one was up and one was down. So it was a really cute look for him, you know. And it didn't hurt or anything, but it, you know, looks good on the cover too.
Yeah, I really like the gold on the cover.
Yeah, it came out nice.
Yeah, there's something special going on in the cover, you know, just the gold and some kind of mystery. Like just there's the picture of the doorway, right? But yeah. And then this here. I was going to tell you to send me another picture because this one here had the shadow on your face, but I thought actually this makes it look very dark and mysterious.
That's actually, that picture is the cover of Seemingly Curtis Cuspelch, the movie I made January 7th. That's like the poster for it. I thought it came out cool. I was sitting on the couch and the light was coming in. So I was trying to position and make my face really angry. And I snapped the picture. I did 3 of them, and I thought that one came out the best.
Yeah, it does look creepy for sure. And it looks good without the background, just like black
Yes.
like that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Nice.
Yeah, you have like a very nice demeanor, friendly looking, but then this picture here that you sent me, I'm like, whoa, this is like serious looking. But it goes very well with the content that you're producing, I
Oh
feel
yeah.
so.
It's the
So
scary,
that's
the scary side of me, I guess, that picture.
right.
Scary Jason.
Jason, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Your girlfriend, do you ever get her to get in on playing the roles too?
Yeah.
And yeah.
And she's on the couch and seemingly Curtis Gus Belch, the two girls that are talking. The house my character is haunting is her house. So, like in the story, like it's our house. She lives there with me, but on the couch scene that was filmed right in this living room, and she's telling her friend and seemingly Curtis Gus Belch, I think it's a male ghost, a guy ghost. And her friend's like, yeah, it's a male ghost. And then they're talking, but it's a whole conversation about it. Because my character, after I cleaned up her yard, I bring a plant in, and the plant sat in the living room. So that scene, you see the plant and she's petrified, her character, because she comes home and there's a plant in her living room and the character lives alone, so she had her friend over to tell her about it, that her house is being haunted. So yeah, she's been in probably 20 something films and does a lot of the camera work, not on the last two, but on many of the others she has.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun, you know. I'm single, and I think it would be fun to meet somebody, who is into this kind of stuff, and kind of do like what you and your significant other do, like just kind of bounce off each other. Um, I think it would be fun to do that. Yeah, my content is based on dreams, half remembered, half misunderstood, and uh, just I'm interested though if like anybody out there hears a story and they're like, oh, that sounds familiar, especially like the more paranormal ones. That's what I wanted to ask you. Like, has it ever happened to you where somebody's like, you know what, like in your story you talk about this, but I actually know somebody that this happened to them or something like that?
Sometimes a little bit similar, but like my real stuff, like I have tons of real paranormal things that have happened to me and that I've been in the middle of. Nothing ever harmful, but I have stories that'll blow people's minds. And I've talked about it on other podcasts, real in depth, crazy things. And it's like I always tell people if they want to know if they're real or not, ask me the same question in 5 years. I'll give you the same exact story. That's because a lot of people might think, hey, this is a little far fetched. I have stories that have witnesses, and I have some stories with photos, and they're old photos from over 20 years ago, not manipulated pictures. But yeah, sometimes you'll see a little bit of stuff that's taken place for real in the story, and people have asked about it. But otherwise, like most of my fiction on the channel is just that. But on the channel, you can go to Jason's Disturbing Experiences. And on my YouTube channel, there are actual experiences that I've gone through. Some funny, some like very creepy and eerie, but they're all in Jason's Disturbing Experiences on the Jason J Tavares YouTube channel.
That's really cool. And you know what? That could be a movie just on its own. You
Oh,
sitting there telling the stories, with children. And that's how you can incorporate children. The children come to ask you.
well, they'd be creeped out by some of them. Like I could tell you a quick one if you got a minute. I was on another show. I was actually on Diego the podcaster, but I was on my second episode with him a few weeks ago because he asked me to come back. I found a handprint in my basement that's never been there. Now, where it's found in the basement, I've walked that path. I've been here like 7 years in this house. I must have walked that path 1,000 times to that room. It's pushed into the concrete, and it looks like a small hand with, you can see three of the fingers and one of them's kind of faded. I should have sent you the picture beforehand, but it's really creepy. And I just noticed it recently because I had handprints on my oil tank in the dust, and now I have this one in the ground. So, but I've never had anything happen in this house. But I found a lot of things, weird sounds, voices, and things like that. So whatever is here is becoming more active as we live here. But no one, like I said, has ever gotten hurt or injured or anything like that.
Wow, that's really interesting, and ghosts are everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a nuisance, sometimes they're just hanging out. But maybe it's trying to say hi to you to see if you notice it,
Yeah.
as long as nobody's getting hurt. Could just have another person there living with you all of this time, didn't even notice,
You never
and
know.
what's interesting is like the moment that you did notice, like what made you notice it? Like what did a insect fly by? Like what made your face turn this way and your eyes divert, and like just the shadowiness, it was pressed in, you said, right?
Well, last winter, this is just one story out of probably 30 that I have out of this house. I was watching, back to Stallone, Rocky 4. I'm watching Rocky 4 in the living room, and my girlfriend got up to go to the bathroom. So she gets up, goes to the bathroom. I'm watching Rocky 4, and it's during the fight with Ivan Drago. So it's loud. They're fighting, the music's on. I'm listening to two women talking. I can hear it, not clearly, but slightly above the movie. So I'm listening, and I'm like, I thought she was in the other room on the phone. Her phone's on the couch next to me. So I go over and I knock on the bathroom door. I said, "Are you talking to yourself?" She goes, "God, would you leave me alone for a minute?" Jeez. I said, all right. So I go back in the living room. She comes in. She's like, "What?" And I told her. I said, I could hear it clear. Two people talking, just muffled, but it was two women. And it was as if, like, here's the TV. It was around the corner in the other room. I could hear one person talking and one person answering. But I've heard that through the basement floor as well, where I get up at night and I hear mumbling. And I'm standing there listening, and it's in the basement. But you never hear an actual word, but you do know it's two different voices speaking. And that happened that day, and that was creepy.
Yeah, that is creepy. That's super trippy too, because then you're like, did I hear that? Did I not hear that? So some kind of like clair audience, like the clairs, clairsentient. We all hear things, see things. Um, you're somebody who hears things. So that's very interesting. Very interesting. Hmm. Now I have lots of questions about that. But we've been chatting for an hour. It's almost been 2 hours, really.
Wow.
But I wanted to thank you so much, Jason, for being on my show because Michael Kopp, he's like, yeah, you should have Jason on your show. And I was like, who's Jason? He's like, well, he's this guy who writes books and does films. He has all kinds of interesting things, different like angles, It's not just like the same content over and over again. And there's paranormal mixed in there. So you really like him. And I'm like, okay, great. But at that time, it was like, I don't know, like the Tuesday or Wednesday, and we were having the Summer Days conference that Saturday. And so I messaged Jason, and I'm like, just let me get over this weekend, and then I can get to you. So that might be something you're interested in too, is speaking at a Summer Days conference, or not the Summer Days, but at one of my conferences, because we have 4 online. Yeah. The next one's going to be in September 19th, and then December 12th. So it's something to think about if you're interested, because hi, Regilio, good to see you. Because people who are typically a guest on my show end up presenting at my conferences. So just keep that in your mind, because I'm always looking for presenters. Like I said, there's 4 every year. So if not the September, the December, then there's one in March, and there's one in June. So that would be really cool too. And it's just based on your medicine, like you might not think or feel like you're sharing medicine, but you really are, because somewhere out there, somebody's listening and they're just like you, or there might be a kid out there who's, not supposed to be watching this, but they're like, I got to watch that show because, that girl Gina, she's having people on there, and that guy Jason, he's like me. I go for walks and I get information. They're not losing their mind. This is very normal. These experiences that we have, even the story that you just shared about hearing, audible type noises, muffled noises, women talking, the handprint that was there, that it's always been there. You just never saw it before. Or maybe you did see it, but your mind protected you and blocked you from that. And finally on that day allowed you to consciously be aware of it. And so I thank you so much for sharing your story medicine. Really means a lot to me. So any final words? Regilio, I feel bad. We've been chatting here for about 2 hours, but definitely catch the replay and check out Jason's link. I'll put it on the screen again.
I would like to say one thing.
Sure.
If you want something made, like for instance, let's say in the future you want a film made off of some stuff that you've written, if you send it to me, I can make it and have you as the writer on it if you like the style that I use. I mean, like let's say you want a short film, like a 10-minute film, just write out what you would like to see, and I'll piece it together, and then I'll show it to you. Is this what you wanted? And because I have a lot of actors, I have like 20 people I use. So I could make basically anything, and then I could send it to you, and it's something that you could promote for whatever you want to show. That way you're getting a writing credit out there and you're getting your film made.
Yeah, that would be really cool, and I couldn't help but smile when you said you had about 20 people acting, because oh my gosh, I think that sounds so fun. Like, to be hanging out with your friends and being like, let's make this movie and just to do it, Regilio saying, don't feel bad. So Regilio, he's been coming on here live with me lately, but usually you come at the beginning, Regilio. So
Is he a ghost or a real person, Regilio?
Yeah, I don't know. Regilio, what are you, a ghost or real person? We would never really know.
That's true.
Can be whatever you really want, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, let me just show folks your doggo here again. Lukey Dookie. Cute name. Curb Grass. Get it on Amazon. Visit Jason's YouTube. All kinds of interesting videos to watch. There's the link again. You can find it inside the description, also here in the comments. So thank you so much, Jason, for being a guest on Story Species, Story Medicine. It's really great to chit chat with you here today. Yeah, I'll just remove you here from the stage, and we'll definitely have to have you back on as a returning guest. And, the nice thing about short stories is that there's always lots to talk about, right? There's too much to talk about, really. So so thank you so much for sharing your story medicine, Jason.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, everybody. There you go. Another show of Story Species, Story Medicine. First time guest, we had Jason J Tavares. First time here, Curb Grass. There's his dog, Lukey Dookie. You can get his book on Amazon. Make sure you visit his YouTube channel. Show Jason some loving. Subscribe. Like his videos. And who knows, maybe you'll star in one of his movies, right? I think it would be really cool if the Dragon Dreams Soul Tribe Collector got together and starred in the movies, because that's basically what folks do, right? They star in the movies, and you are the movies, right? Even being on this show. So I wonder what Jason would think about my mini movie, Lushing, and I feel kind of shy to show him somebody like that. But I'm an amateur. Let us know in the comments if you're an amateur, if you've got more experience like Jason, what your intentions are. And let me know if you'd like to be a guest on Story Species, Story Medicine. This show was initially targeting published authors, but you know what? Even on my website, I updated it. You don't have to be a published author. There's been a few guests on here who being on this show was an actual stepping stone for them to publishing their book. So that was really exciting. And then I also put on my website that if you don't write, but maybe you dance or you play the guitar and that's your story medicine about whatever experience that you had, I would absolutely love to hear it. So thank you so much, Dragon Dreamers. Gina Virginia Casella here. Have yourselves a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Story Species, Story Medicine. Hope you got your dragon dose of medicine, and we'll see you next time.